So what a lot of students want to hear, I'm going to say it right now. For the purpose of history, PPTs are enough. Are enough. Do not have to go anywhere. Bhumika, don't have to make notes. Understand. I will tell you what to do. Concentrate in class. First thing is PPTs are enough. Second, I will give you another important suggestion. There is something called NCERT fundamentals. You would have seen it in your app. In your app, just Google, just search NCERT fundamentals. In this, I have actually covered two very important chapters out of the 9th and 11th class NCERT with regards to world history. And this is specific to the Byju's app. This will help you, Byju's exam prep app. This will help you in revising. And second is on YouTube. There's something called the knowledge series. There's something called the knowledge series. Again, our channel itself, knowledge series. In this again, I've done at least 4 to 5 important world history topics. So once you've done the PPTs, within 1 hour, you can revise it via the NCERT fundamentals. So you don't have to even read the NCERT. And within half an hour, the same thing will be covered within the knowledge series of the YouTube. So very simply, we have sent you a book, but I'm not asking you to read it. What I want is 3 things. First, concentration in class. Second, PPTs should be understood very, very well. And third is, for revision purposes, these videos. So these sources acceptable, manageable within the time frame we are in? Okay, perfect. So no issues in that sense also. Perfect. Now we have to understand 2-3 very simple things. What is the syllabus? How do we cover it? And over and above that, what is the theme for today? So if everybody is with me, we are on the same page with regards to the sources. Can we now begin our class in that sense? I've been giving you the basic understanding till this point. Okay. Now, when we talk about the syllabus, UPSC is very notorious to give very vague words. So in GS paper 1, they have given the following lines. History of the world, this is the exact thing, including events from 18th century like Industrial Revolution, World Wars, colonization, decolonization, redrawal of national boundaries, political philosophies like communalism, capitalism, and socialism, and their effects on society. This is quintessentially UPSC, which is to give as open-ended as possible. So they have said start in 18th century, randomly given the events, and just said effects and philosophies, do it. Like it's just a joke. They've just randomly sprinkled these words into GS paper 1, but there is an implication of each and every word which they've used. This means that basically there's no basic end and the beginning is vague. And making my task difficult is I can't start in 18th century. I can't randomly say, okay, American Revolution, colonization. I have to give you context, which I will do. But this is what UPSC does. Now, how do we cover the syllabus? How do we cover the syllabus? We'll be covering 10 modules. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So today we start our story at what is called American Revolution. Thereafter, second module, which is tomorrow, day after tomorrow, Napoleon. Then one theme which is considered problematic, which is unification of Germany and Italy. Then Industrial Revolution. Now, these four are what is called standalone topics. These are standalone topics. This got zigzagged for some reason. American Revolution, I'll just write it again for you. I can see, I have a preview in front of me, so don't worry. I can see it's got zigzagged. Okay, I'll write it again. Okay. I can see that, Nirbhay, don't worry about that. 1, 2, 3, 4, now it isn't. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. First is American Revolution. Second is French Revolution. Third is unification. Again, there's a major line. Okay, 1 second. Okay, unification of Germany and Italy. Thereafter, Industrial Revolution. Okay, let's do one thing. Give me 1 second. I can see the zigzag lines. Give me 1 second. I'm just refreshing my system. I will just go off for 1 second. I'm not gone anywhere. I'm just refreshing my system. So don't worry about that. Okay, I should be back now. And I'll write everything again. Don't worry about that. So, right. I'm audible and visible. With regards to that, there's no issue. Yeah, perfect. Now I'll write everything again. I can see what you mean. As I said, I have a preview there. Don't worry about that. Okay. So the first point is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. The lag is gone now. Okay. Now, this is somehow nobody wants us to know the modules for some reason. American Revolution, French Revolution, and Napoleon. Thereafter, unification of Germany and Italy. Okay, Italy. Now there's a line between Italy and 8. I can see that. Don't worry about that. Okay. Then we go for Industrial Revolution. Once Industrial Revolution is done, okay. Thereafter, 5, 6, Eastern Question and road to World War I. Thereafter, World War I. Then Russian Revolution. Ignore that. Russian Revolution and ideologies. Thereafter, road to World War II and World War II. Then Cold War politics and the last is called colonization and decolonization. I know, don't worry about that. It will sort out itself within 2-3 minutes. It's happening. I can see that. It's zigzag, but you understand the basic bhavana here. Don't worry about it. So, very simply, American Revolution, French Revolution and Napoleon. Now listen to me. Unification of Germany and Italy, Industrial Revolution, Eastern Question and World War I, World War I, Russian Revolution and ideology, World War II and the road to it, Cold War politics, and colonization and decolonization. There are 10. I know the zigzag lines. Try to concentrate here. Try to concentrate here. It is technically world history is European history. All history is European history only. Don't worry about that. That's called Eurocentrism. Now, very simply, these are the 10 modules. American, French, Unification of Germany, Italy, Industrial Revolution. 4 modules which are standalone. So if you miss any of these, technically they are not connected, not that much. But after 5, module number 5, Eastern Question, World War I, World War II, Cold War politics, these 4 modules are linked to each other. So you can't miss them in that sense. And colonization, decolonization, we'll discuss Vietnam and we'll discuss the African sector in that sense. A very dear topic to UPSC previously. Now it isn't, but it used to come. Africa and Vietnam, which is Southeast Asia, Indochina and Vietnam. 10 modules we are going to cover. We'll start in 1776 and technically not even 1776. We'll start in 1600-ish and will end in 1991 with the disintegration of the USSR. So this is ideologies, means capitalism, communism, socialism. I will discuss everything here. Russian Revolution, I'll discuss Marxism, communism, socialism, everything. Everything I will cover. Don't have to worry about that, Pooja. Everything comes within ideologies itself. Chinese Revolution, not important. Previously used to be, have never asked a question. It's technically a waste of time. So rather we'll put more emphasis into Cold War politics because it helps you in IR more, right? So we have 10 modules and 10 classes, 35 hours covering these topics. Is this clear, everybody? Renaissance Reformation comes before 18th century. I'll tell you, I'll talk about Renaissance, but these are all context because the UPSC says 18th century, which means that anything before it is out of syllabus. But I have to teach you that. That's a separate issue altogether. Okay. So everybody is with me with regards to the source, syllabus, and modules. Modules we'll cover, so you don't have to worry. That is my problem, not yours. So can we agree to all of this? Then only I start my analysis. You understand the basic picture here. You understand what is happening, what is the basic concept here. Okay, very good, perfect. Great. Okay. Right. Renaissance, no, I'm not paused. I was just fiddling with the screen in front of me. Okay. Now, let's begin our analysis. And let's try to understand what we need to understand. Now, after refresh, line disappears. Yes, Kajal, if there's an issue, just refresh. Okay. Everybody's with me. Can we begin? Everybody's with me because now I need your attention. Okay. Now, very simply, what are we doing here? What we are doing here is world history, but UPSC says 18th century, which has a problematic aspect to it because I can't start in 18th century. Because if I say feudalism, I need to explain what is feudalism. So what I am going to do right now is, I'm going to traverse with you 14th to 17th, 18th century, and whatever I'm discussing with you is out of syllabus. Is out of syllabus. It is just, remember, it is just for context. It is just for context. So if you understand the basics here, more or less enough. More or less enough. Don't have to go into the nitty-gritty. Who is Martin Luther? What is Calvinism? What is Lutheranism? That does make no sense. Basic points are very, very important. So whatever I'm doing here is technically for the next half an hour out of syllabus, but without that you can't understand world history itself. So don't get flustered with the names, don't get flustered with the details, just follow what basics I'm trying to argue, what I'm trying to argue. Can we agree to this? Come on. Yes, it isn't, don't worry about that. Okay, now the point here is very simple. All history is Eurocentric, meaning somehow Europeans are the ones who write the history. Victors write the history, and Europeans have generally been the ones who have won everything, so they write their history. Now our story starts in America. But basically before 1492, for the Europeans, there was nothing across the Atlantic. So before 1492, according to them, there were only 3 parts to the world. They called themselves the Old World. This is technically Europe. Thereafter, they knew that there's something called the Orient, which is technically Asia. And they knew that there's something called Africa. Can you tell me what is common to these 3 things? What is common to these 3 things? Why is that they know about these 3? Come on. Very good. Because they are land linked, they are able to understand the linkage. They can understand the linkage because they are land linked. So very simply, they are able to understand that we can go via land. So I understand the concept itself. But before 1492, for them, there was nothing across the Atlantic. If you ask them what is across the Atlantic, they didn't know, because nobody would venture too much into the ocean itself. And whatever was land linked, they thought that, okay, it is close by. So they knew about Africa, they knew about the Orient, and they know about themselves, which is the Old World itself. But now in 1492, a person called Christopher Columbus finally finds what is called the New World. Now technically this word is very misleading, because for them, which is the Europeans, it is a new world, but it was already there. People were already living there. There were Aztecs, Inca, everybody was there. There were civilizations there. There are the Mayans there. But for the Europeans, it's the new world. But the question which needs to come in your mind, and again, I'm only giving you context here, is what changed in 1492? Why is that in 1492, they were ready to cross over into the Atlantic, and before that, they weren't ready for that. This is the $1 million question, that if you look at all the adventurers, if you look at all the different adventurers, or what we call as explorers, basically by 1492, 1497, a lot of them were ready to cross the Atlantic. They were ready to cross the Atlantic, but what changed? And this is the question we need to deal with. What changed in 1492 that they were ready to cross over into the Atlantic Ocean? You're understanding the question. Come on, you're basically getting the question which I'm trying to argue. Why is that before 1492 nobody was ready to cross over, but after 1492 they were ready to cross over into the Atlantic sector? And why is that they got the guts to do that? Why is that they were so keen now to cross over? Previously they didn't have that. Previously they didn't have that. Why is that they had it just before 1492, not after 1492? No, the Ottoman question is not the point here. The point is here is how the knowledge system changed, and I'll explain it to you. First, understand the question. Everybody, please, can you understand the fact that the question I'm asking you is very simple? Why is that before 1492 nobody wanted to cross the Atlantic, but after 1492 every second person wanted to? Are you understanding this question? If you're understanding this question, then I tell you what is the answer to it. You're understanding the question? Perfect. So if you're understanding the question, then let's try to understand what changed. And for that, we need to go to 13th, 14th century Europe. So let's go to 14th century Europe and understand how is the whole society established, how is it linked to each other, how does it go forward in that sense. So now if you weren't concentrating till this point, now you start to concentrate, because it is extremely important what we are going to discuss now. So very simply, the social structure of 13th, 14th century Europe is called feudalism. This word you would have done with me if you've done ancient medieval art and culture with me with regards to what we call as the feudalistic tendencies which developed in the Satavahana period, thereafter the early medieval feudalistic tendencies. But feudalism is a very specific thing to Europe, and it has a very specific character. So what is feudalism? Feudalism is a social structure which is divided into a pyramid of social relations. Basically, you have the king at the apex. He's at the topmost point. He has a very strong relationship with the church, the Christian church itself, very strong relationship. And the king thereafter has a whole plethora of knights under him. Knights are nothing but soldiers. The king controls the soldiers. The king controls the soldiers, which is the knights itself. I'll write the soldier part again. Soldiers. And the knights thereafter under them have what we call today as landlords, or what we call in French vassals. And under the vassals itself, you have a whole army of bonded labor. And the word for bonded labor is what? The word for bonded labor? Very good, Achal. Serfs, which is called serfdom, not begar. It is a very specific word for Europe. It does not exist in India. It's called serfdom. So the king controls the knight controls the landlords, and the landlords control the bonded labor. Now this is pure feudalism, a system of decentralized control. But the most important aspect for us is this relationship, king and church. Basically, the church has control over everything. Let's quantify it. Let's quantify it to 100%. They have 100% control over the society, which is the church has 100% control over the society, knowledge system, and the basic lives of people. So very simply, when we talk about the basic is got, yeah, when we talk about the people itself, the church controls everything. The church has 100% control over the knowledge system. Everybody is following me till this point? Okay. Now, very simply, over a period of time, this changes. But the reason why nobody would venture too much into the sea is because of this. Because according to the church, the earth was flat. The earth was flat. Nirbhay, everybody, don't worry about that. It will sort out itself. Don't worry about that. Listen to me. Okay. So the earth was flat according to the church. Now, if the earth is flat, according to them, if they go too much into the sea, they thought that they would fall off the edge of the earth. They would fall off the edge of the earth itself, and basically they would never go too much into the ocean, thinking that they would actually fall off the edge of the ocean itself. So very simply, I'm muting myself for 1 second. Right. So don't worry, I had muted myself. I was just telling the team to check because a lot of you are saying that basically there's a video and audio lag. Don't worry about that. Okay. So the first and foremost point is the church has 100% control over the knowledge system, and the church argues that the earth is flat. If the earth is flat, the explorers would not go too much into the sea, thinking that they would fall off the edge itself. Now, if they think that they are going to fall off the edge itself, the exploration would not happen. So the question which I asked you is, why is that people did not explore before 1492? The reason is because the church would not technically believe that there is something called the spherical earth, or the fact that the earth is not the center of the universe or our galaxy itself, it is the sun. Now, so there should be no issue now. I'm again, because I'm listening to you, I am trying to do this from time to time, but I can see it's fine now. It's better than before. Okay, perfect. Then no issues. Now, because I'm going to explain something, I want your full concentration here. Now, very simply, I gave you an explanation. People did not want to venture too much because of the fact that people thought that they'll fall off the earth. Now what happened? What happened was the church authority very systematically going away, and in that context we have the following events which happen. Now I want from you 200% attention, but you don't have to go into too much detail, just have to keep it simple. Keep it simple. So can I discuss this now? Can we discuss this? I am not going to repeat this. I'm just going to give you a basic story and it should not be a problem. Great. I'm extremely sorry for whatever the issue is, happens sometime, but we will figure it out over a period of time. Don't worry about that. Okay. Very simply. Very good. Everything is okay now, please. Yes, thank you for that. Just focus in class, because if you understand this, you will never forget world history. Now let's quantify our data. Let's quantify our data. Before this moment, 100% control the church has. Church has 100% control. Now, very simply, what happens is that the king starts to get frustrated. He starts to feel everything the church tells me. He tells me when to get up, when to sleep, what to do, what not to do, who to marry, who not to marry, this, that. So the kings start to become a little bit frustrated. So within this model itself, the king starts to feel frustrated. And the first thing which happens is that the kings start to consolidate power. So the decline of feudalism is initiated via the concentration of power of the king. So very simply, the kings start to consolidate power, and what they do is they start to, in a way, remove the church a little bit. Not everything the church should concentrate, and I don't want the church control. So very simply, just by doing this, just by the kings consolidating power, concentrating power within themselves, what happens is, and let's quantify it again, the power of the church goes to 80%. The power of the church goes to 80%, which is minus 20% power, because the feudal structure starts to decline. Again, I'm giving you a very simplistic view, which is the fact that when the kings start to consolidate power itself, once the power is consolidated, the church starts to lose its grip over society. First point clear, everybody? Shukla, don't worry about that. Whatever be the case, it will figure it out. Don't worry. Okay. If you're writing no, you need to tell me what aspect is not clear. A feudalistic society, church has 100% control over the state, and it has 100% control over society, knowledge system, economy, everything. With the frustration of the kings coming through, they start to consolidate power. Once they start to consolidate power, that in turn leads to the church authority getting reduced, and we quantified it to minus 20%. The church now has 80% control over the society. This is what we've done till this point. The king is now trying to concentrate power. Is this clear, everyone? Come on. Tanmay, what I'm doing is I'm just giving you a hypothetical percentage. It's not the way it works, but I'm giving it to you to just make it simple as possible. Now, the king did not like the church control. That is why he takes power under him. Now, this process starts by the end of 13th century, beginning of 14th century. But what happens is that with this 20% power gone, people discover a new set of knowledge. And that new set of knowledge was something which existed before the feudal system, which is the writings of Aristotle, Plato, we have Derrida. The basic point of the matter is there is something called Greek knowledge, Greek philosophy, Greek knowledge, polity optional and philosophy optional, but students would know. It's called political theory. So the Greek knowledge, which was kept within the secrets of the church, now comes out. Now comes out that there was something such as Machiavelli, Plato, Aristotle. There were people who were talking about the sun, the moon. They were talking about very sophisticated things. So what happens is that because of this 20% power gone away, this 20% power taken away, what happens is that there is a movement which starts in Italy, which is called, it's a cultural movement, it's called Renaissance. Renaissance means rebirth or resurgence. And what the resurgence word means, it is the resurgence of Greek knowledge. So it is a cultural movement. It's a cultural movement. And the cultural movement is about revivalism of Greek knowledge system. Not Greek knowledge system. So this 20% decrease allows for the space for people to read Greek sources again, and that is because feudalism was taking away the monopoly of the church over knowledge itself. Now again, remember the original question, what changed? And I'm talking to you about that only, what changed. So the first change is there is this revivalism of Greek knowledge. Everybody is following me till this point? Humans are nothing. God is the most important personality. He is everything. He is everything. However, when you read the what we call as Greek sources, there's this emphasis on man, meaning that God is not everything. People are also important. People are also important. And basically, within the Renaissance, you have now people like Da Vinci, Michelangelo, started to paint humans rather than God. And this is technically called the concept of humanism, or what we call as individualism, which is that man is also important. He has the ability to change everything. Church would say God is almighty, he will do everything. But Greek knowledge said, no, man has the capacity to change nature. He can think. He is very, very important. So from decline of feudalism, that 20% space allows for the Greek knowledge to come out. And now the Greek knowledge is saying that God is not important. What is more important is humans. And when humans are important, this Renaissance event, what it does is, it again reduces the power of the church. So very simply, what we see is that of the church. Now, very simply, let's believe that it reduced again by minus 20%, meaning when we started this discussion, it was at 100%, it became 80% here, then it became 60% here. So see, these events are not part of your course, But each of these events play a very important role because they are very systematically taking away the power. Understand the logic. The logic is, why did people have the guts to cross the Atlantic Ocean? Because the church did not have control over the knowledge system. Church said the earth is flat, but there will be people such as Kepler, Galileo. For that, there are certain events which are very, very important. So decline of feudalism happens, Renaissance happens. Till this point, everybody is with me. Pallav, refresh. There is no lines. I can see that. I have a preview in front of me. Okay. So first 20% is because of the king. Yes, very right. And next 20% is because of the awakening and the understanding itself. First 20% because the king wants power, and second 20% is because the people start to read about Plato, Aristotle, Machiavelli, and Da Vinci and Michelangelo start to paint very beautiful pictures of humans. People start to argue humans are important. But now the next event is something which is going to break the church from within. Which is going to break the church from within, which is called Reformation. Now again, please listen to me. Please listen to me. What is the Reformation? What is the Reformation? Everybody is with me till this point. Come on, everyone. I need your consensus. This is the technical part. After this, it will not be this much complicated. Okay. Was society rigidly stratified? Yes, it was. But church authority going away would lead to fluidity. Okay. Now, I know there is an issue. It will automatically get resolved. After the break, I will make sure that it is resolved. Right now, just bear with me. I understand the issue. Don't worry about that. I have a preview here. I know that. So if you're seeing lines, refresh, listen to me rather. Okay. As I said, a lot of you are saying just refresh, because it happens sometimes. It's a server thing. It automatically will get it sorted. Now, the church is a corrupt body. It's a corrupt body. So what happened was that the Pope, the bishop, the upper, what is called bureaucracy of the church, was very, very wealthy, very wealthy. Too much money. However, the priest on the ground had no money. So while the priests were dying, the bishops, archbishops, these are very important titles within the church, Pope, bishop, archbishop, had a lot of money. This is called the corruption within the church itself. Now what happens is that in the German states, the German speaking states, rises a man called Martin Luther. Remember, not Martin Luther King Jr. That's a separate person altogether. His name was Martin Luther. Martin Luther got frustrated with these corrupt practices. And in his frustration, he writes what is called, there are two words for it, the 95 thesis, sometimes also called the 99 thesis. Basically, in German ideology, it is called 95 thesis. Within the English, it is called 99 thesis, but it's called 90 thesis for sure. It's called the 95 thesis. So what happens is that in the 95 thesis, Martin Luther writes 95 problems in the church, and he goes and nails it on the church door itself. And what he does in that moment is, he, for the first time, challenges the church from within. And what the Reformation technically does is that it breaks the church into two types. And this you would know. One is called the Catholic Church. Catholic Church is the one which is the orthodox one. Orthodox means the all corrupt practices, the all old ideas are within the Catholic one. But what is the new force within Christianity is called Protestant Church. The word comes from protest. It is called Protestant Church, meaning Protestantism. That we protest against all these practices of the church. We want to create a new church which is not God-centric, but it is human-centric. Therefore, The Protestant church is now talking about humanism. They say humans are important. It's not the church which is important. You and me is important. Now what happens is, this is a major blow to the church. The church control, which started at 100% when we started the discussion, is technically getting blow after blow. First major blow is Renaissance. All of this is happening simultaneously, but I keep it in a sequence. The Renaissance breaks the back of the church first, then the Reformation breaks the church from within. And this will in turn lead to, for example, minus 30%, major change. And now the church only has control over the society 30%. That's it. So when we started our discussion, we started at 100%. Church controls everything. The earth is flat. Everything is flat. If a scientist would say, no, the church is not flat, they would take him, pour petrol over him or whatever be it the case, and burn him. Burn alive a heathen who says that the church is wrong. So anybody who wanted to challenge the church could not challenge the church, because that would mean that you're challenging God. So at the starting of this century, it was not possible to challenge the church. Then comes the Renaissance, which makes it, then comes the king's frustration. He takes it to 80%. Then comes the Renaissance. It takes it to 60%. And then from within, people like Martin Luther, Calvin start to now challenge the church. And the church control is at 30%. Is this making sense, everybody? Is this making sense? How we are seeing that the church is losing control over the society itself? Everybody, a lot of you are not saying a lot of things. You need to give me a response. This is the difficult part. After this, it's easier. Okay. Now, please remember, Martin Luther King is a different person. He's a black activist in America. This is Martin Luther, not Martin Luther King Jr. Please don't confuse these things, please. Okay. Now, what brought it to 60%? The Renaissance. 80% the king, 30% the Reformation. Now what happens is that the cumulative result of these three events is what is called the scientific revolution. And what happens is that within the scientific revolution, for the first time, a person called Kepler, you would have heard about him, Kepler, now says or gives what is called the heliocentric view. He says that no, the church is wrong. The church is wrong. The sun is the center of the universe, and we are revolving around the sun. And we are one of the planets within this whole concept. Now, Kepler's theory needed to be proven. So what happens is that Galileo and which in turn led to the rise of modern sciences, is a person who still haunts a lot of engineering students, which is Newton. Newton and his three laws challenged everything. For the first time, Newton says that it's not God which controls everything. There are natural laws. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. If a body is in motion, it would like to be in motion, and if it is in rest, it would like to be in rest. Moment of inertia. Very simply, this is not a science class. Newton technically destroyed the church's authority over the knowledge system itself. And with the scientific revolution, we have the rise of the era of what we call as modern sciences. And modern sciences in turn create a very important navigation tool. What is that important navigation tool? Kepler is a scientist. Yes, very good, Samrat. compass. The compass using the magnetic field is able to show what is the direction in which you are going. But an important subsidiary to the compass is something called the magnetic needle. What does the magnetic needle tell you? Technically, the magnetic needle is a needle which shows you in which latitude you are in. It aligns itself with the magnetic field of the earth. So basically, it is always telling you, see, compass tells you north and south, but it can't tell you in which latitude you are in. The magnetic needle technically aligns itself with the angle of the latitude, and if you calculate that angle, you get the latitude you are in. So these things with the telescope, which in turn leads to the telescope which is used by navigators, in turn leads to the age of discovery. And this is where the moment 1492 comes in, that people had the guts to cross over from the old world into the new world, cross over the Atlantic, because now they did not fear that they will technically fall off the edge of the earth itself. Basically, everything I've been talking about builds up to this moment. The fact that Christopher Columbus had the funding and the guts to go and cross the Atlantic was because now the church controlled nothing. And the question which I asked you in the beginning, why is that people were ready to cross over the Atlantic in 1492 and not before it, is because Renaissance, Reformation, Scientific Revolution systematically destroyed the flat earth theory. The church authority was gone. Scientists could not fear the church. If they wanted to say something, they could say something and they would not be burnt at stake. Galileo was given so many death threats. A lot of different scientists before him were burnt by the church, were killed by the church because they were called heathens, people who did not believe in God's understanding of the earth. So, very simply, these explorers from Christopher Columbus, but one of the most important in this is a person called Magellan. You will find him here, Magellan. What Magellan did was, Magellan circumvented the earth. Basically, he started in Europe, went via the coast of Brazil, then into the Pacific Ocean, and came back to Portugal, thereby showing that the earth is round. It's not flat, it's round. Circumvented the earth itself. So Indranil, yes, later killed by the church, not in the beginning. Now, very simply, this is what is the story. This is what changes. Everything I've taught you till this point is out of syllabus, but UPSC randomly says 18th century. The fact is that America was found. No, it was already inhabited, but it was found by the Europeans because of a series of events which happened in Europe. And you would ask me, why does the name America come? See, first things first, Christopher Columbus never reached America. He reached what is called the Caribbean Islands. He came here, he bounced around in the Caribbean Islands, went back. The person who actually went to America is a person called Amerigo Vespucci. And this person, Amerigo, is from where the word America comes from. America or Amerigo Vespucci. Now, the fact is, people had the guts, they crossed over. Now, New World is found. This is technically New World. New World. Every country was funding rather explorers. They were funding explorers. But what is more important to us is that where does the American Revolution happen? Now, till this point, everybody's with me till this point. Come on. A lot of notions will change, Anil. America was not found by Columbus, rather Amerigo Vespucci. Okay. So now I asked you a question. What changed? What changed was the power of the church. Okay. I'll summarize, Shalu, don't worry. Let me just, last thing I need to, which we need to develop, then I'll summarize everything. Now, see, you all said that this is all European history. See, America is a very big unit. And each and every country wanted a piece of America. So this piece, which is today Brazil, was under the Portuguese. What was left was under the Spanish. That is why you would know that within South America, half of what Brazil speaks Portuguese language. Other than that, everybody speaks Spanish. Same way, in North America, this part went to the French. Spain was the foremost here. Spain again had all of this. And the culprits are oppressors. The British had this portion. Now, for the purpose of the examination, no one cares about South America. No one cares about French America. No one cares about Spanish North America. When we talk about the American Revolution very specifically, we are discussing this part. We are actually only discussing 1% of the American subcontinent. Nothing more, nothing less. Isha, you email me about that. World history for optional is totally different story, and world history for GS is totally different story. Very, very different, very extensive in optional. So why? Because American Revolution did not happen in Spanish America, did not happen in Portuguese America, French America. And we study British history. So in a way, don't ask me, ask the British. We are now going to only concentrate on these colonies. The initial 9, and then they became 13. And you would know them because of the names which are there. And the first settlements are Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, Virginia, thereafter Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Delaware, Maryland, don't have to learn this, Rhode Island, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, Connecticut, Vermont, Maine, and New York. These are considered the first colonies of the British in America, and this is where our analysis is going to concentrate. Now, when I'm going to give you the summary, I'll bring everything together. One thing should be very, very clear. The Spanish and the Portuguese had the best part of Americas. The most fertile, the Portuguese had Amazon, Brazil. Spanish also had Argentina, very beautiful, very, very what we call resource-rich areas. But the British, who were late to this story, technically, it was only by 1497, 5-6 years later, they actually tried to figure it out. By that time, the cake was already cut. The basic point of the matter is, British got the worst part of America. Can anybody tell me why? See, if you have done world history and world geography, you would know there's a mountain range here. What is it called? What is it called? Very good. Very good, Ujjwal. They're called the Appalachian. It's called the Appalachian Mountains. Appalachian Mountains. They're called the Appalachian Mountains. The Appalachian Mountains technically acted like a barrier for the British to go in this direction. And the problem is that this area was not fertile. It did not have gold, silver, and it did not have anything generally. It did not have anything generally. So it was a very barren territory in that sense. But the basic point of the matter was there was a major push to go to America. But by the time the British reached this part, they are getting the worst part. And I'll tell you how the whole story is going to unfold. But before I go to the reasons why these countries were going to America, can I presume that three questions you can answer? First, why did people not cross over before 1492? Second, why did they have the courage to cross over after 1492? And what geography we are concentrating in? Can I presume these three questions you can answer to anybody and anyone if they ask you these three questions? Perfect? No issues? Great. So now we've done the most painful part of this discussion. Now things will become a little bit more easier. This was what UPSC doesn't want you to know, but you need to know, because without this, if anybody is teaching world history, they're technically just teaching for the sake of teaching. Okay. There were three questions. Which you need to know. First question was, why did not cross before 1492? This is why I'm not writing anything. I can see it is becoming a little bit. Why didn't cross over for 1492? Second question was, why they did after 1492? And third, geography. Third, geography of our discussion. Now, discussion has become distorted. Discussion. Is this clear, everyone? Come on, everybody. These three questions, everybody is on board with me, no issues. Okay, now, let's summarize. Geography is nothing but this area. Geography is nothing but this area. This is where we are concentrating now. Okay. As I said, keep up atlas if that helps. Geography discussion is this basic small strip of land. Now, what have we done till this point? Church had control, flat earth, people didn't cross over. Now, the Renaissance, Reformation and the scientific revolution systematically took away the power of the church. Science developed. With rise of modern sciences, there was a new understanding which developed, which is that the earth is not flat, but it is a sphere. And people now did not fear falling over the edge of the earth. Therefore, they started to explore. And the exploration actually came from the kings itself, and I'll tell you about that. Now, after 1492, there's a flurry of explorations. Magellan proves that the earth is technically round because he started at the point and came back to it after 1 year. Therefore, he was able to show that the earth, there is no edges, but it's a sphere. Now, the next question is, why would the state or who was funding these explorations? Because these explorations were like 3 months. Used to take 3 months, 4 months, 5 months. Lot of manpower, lot of money was needed. So there are two things which you need to know. First is who funded, why, and second is people were migrating to the new world. And the reason for that is equally interesting. So who, why? This is the first question. Who and why? So basically it was the Spanish and the Portuguese who were the foremost in technically funding these explorers. But why were they funding it? Why were they funding it? They were funding it for the 3 G's. You would know what is called glory, God, and gold. Glory, God, gold. First was the fact that I have a new land in the new world. So it is the glory to the nation. I am the king, not just of the old world, but of the new world also. So they are funding it because of their glory, because of their egos. They are funding it for the resources. They are funding it for the resources, gold, silver, which was available in the sector itself. And the last but not the least is that the church also actually funded or pushed the kings to send these expeditions. Why would the church want to do that? Tell me. Why would the church want to do it? That is the, Rakesh, that is the contradiction here. That is called hypocrisy. Yes. See, because in the European sector, Protestantism was taking away followers from the church. Church said that these new areas, we can convert people. And that is why each of these explorers in their ships used to have what is called a missionary, a very specific missionary called the Jesuit. You would have heard this word, Jesuits. Jesuits are actually nothing. Varsha, what is the question? Repost it again. Jesuits are technically the Christian missionaries or Catholic Christian missionaries who convert. So when they used to reach this area, they used to say, okay, I don't know who your God is, but I give you 2 options. Either you take the Bible or you take the sword. Either you get converted or you die. And basically, God, glory, and gold, these 3, the Catholic Church, understand the hypocrisy of the West. The same church which argued that don't cross the Atlantic now is actively funding these explorations so that they can find more followers. Never trust the West. Never trust the Europeans, specifically their church. And this is what is the hypocrisy. This point is clear, everybody? Why the Spanish and the Portuguese wanted to go to Europe. Then I'm going to tell you the other side of the story and then we take a break. 3 G's, God, glory, gold. Glory for the nation. God because for conversion. And resources for gold. Is this clear, everyone? Okay. Now, why would people want to go? Why would people want to go? People wanted to go for very simple 3 reasons. First is that they wanted to escape religious prosecution. Very simple. I'll rewrite the word again. It is again distorted. What do you mean by religion? The Catholic Church was going after the Protestants, so they wanted to make sure that they could now go to a place where they could live in peace. Second is population pressure. there was a major boost in the population of Europe because of birth rates going up, death rate going down. Therefore, people were going there for economic opportunity. Opportunities. Again, got distorted. Okay. What do you mean by economic opportunities? I could be a beggar in Europe, but if I cross over the Atlantic and go to America where there's land, I could become a landowner. So religious persecution, Protestants, Catholic, all of them went. Different types of Protestants also went. Population pressure and economic opportunity. Make sense, everyone? Economic, population pressure, and this. Okay, so now let me summarize and then we take a break. We have now understood the base. The foundation is clear. They crossed over into the Atlantic because the scientific revolution proved that the earth is round. The church did not have control over society or the knowledge system. Thereafter, we have a whole plethora of explorers. These explorers were ready to cross over for a very simple reason, because now they were getting funding from the Spanish and the Portuguese kings for God, glory, and gold. And the people started to also migrate into these areas in order to escape religious persecution or because of the population pressure and looking for new opportunities. Right? Can we take a break now? Make sense? Thrill of exploring is also there, but that's a very, very basic point. The feedback form will also be shared with you for the last class. You have to do that also. Already sent to you, so you would have already received a feedback form for what happened before this. Okay, you would have received it. Can we take a break? Come on, everyone. Everybody is on the same page. It's already shared in your chat, so do use that. Can we take a break? Yes. So it is 6:30. We take a 10-minute break. We come back at 6:40. We come back at 6:40. Done? Everybody is following me. You are not just sitting there clueless thinking I'm not going to repeat or there's an issue. It's okay. You are following what we are doing till this point. What we've done is just context. Now we go into the American Revolution. Great. So let's take a break and let's figure out what is happening in the background also. See you. Take care.